Hey there. Yeah, I, Zak Wolf, have heard the bad news about Arthur, the long-running PBS animated series and one of my favorite childhood cartoons. You've seen referenced on my YouTube channel quite a bit, especially of all those YouTube poops. Season 25, set to premiere this upcoming winter, will be the show's final season. Hard to believe it's been on for so long. It's even gotten to the point where it's currently the second longest running animated series in North America, only behind The Simpsons. It's definitely not an easy feat for any animated series, and you can especially tell with the seasonal rot such long-running shows like The Simpsons, South Park, Family Guy, and SpongeBob SquarePants have all been going through, and Arthur was no exception. A big blow to the show's quality came in 2012, when the original production company, Cookie Jar Entertainment, formerly known as Cinar, ceased operations and were folded into DHX Media, now known as Wild Brain. And so Arthur had to relocate for season 16, in this case to 9 Story Entertainment, also based in Canada, like Cookie Jar was. But instead of using traditional hand-drawn animation techniques that's done overseas, in Korea or Hong Kong, they just do it in the house using Flash-esque animation techniques. And so the animation quality took a big step downward and started to look a lot cheaper. Almost like the Simpsons intro since 2009, how a few parts of it were animated in Flash, but without the jarring shifts to hand-drawn animation and back. But even that didn't last long. As of season 20, 4 years later, they relocated yet again, this time to Oasis Animation. And while the animation was still Flash-like, it took a noticeable step up in quality, with movements starting to look more natural. And it got even better with season 22, including the infamous episode Mr. Rapper and the special someone. But enough talking about the animation quality. As some of you may already know, I grew up with this series. I was in 3rd grade myself when the show first premiered in 1996, just like Arthur and his friends were. I was already familiar with the Arthur book series, too, that it was based on. And I had also turned 8 years old at the time, which is generally Arthur's age, along with some of his other friends, excluding the Brain and Prunella, who were 9, and Binky, who's 10. And of course we have Arthur's little sister DW, who starts out 4 years old but later on turns 5, and her own friends in that age group like Emily, the Tibble Twins, and Bud. Of course, like many long-running animated shows such as The Simpsons, nobody really ages or grows up, so Arthur and his friends have been in the 3rd grade for 25 years now. Then again, when the show began production, it's obvious the writing staff had no idea the show would be on for so long. And then there's also season 19's The Last Day that focuses on the characters preparing to move up a grade. Though it's fairly obvious it was intended to be a series finale, but then PBS ordered more episodes. And the season 25 finale is presumably going to be something similar, titled All Grown Up. Only this time it'll be the real finale. And it's good it's getting a proper finish, as many shows aren't so lucky, especially if they're Nickelodeon shows. And they actually discuss this kind of thing in an Arthur episode, The Last of Mary Moo Cow, which was DW's favorite TV show ending.
I'm sorry, DW, but that's what happens to all TV shows eventually. They get canceled.
You mean it'll never be on again?
I know it seems awful right now, honey, but think of all the other fun things you can do now at 3:30. And you do have a few videotapes.
That brings up another good thing about this show, the stories. Dealing with a TV show getting canceled is something that can be explained to kids. And they also tackled so many other great subjects, such as facing your fears, cooperation, getting a new baby sibling, the death of a loved one, telling the truth, making the best of a bad situation, how trends come and go, violence leads to consequences, everyone can work together to get through a disaster, it's best to be yourself, don't misjudge people with disabilities, swearing can be offensive to just about anybody, and adoption and cancer and other topics. I especially remember being excited in season 13 when they introduced Carl, a boy with Asperger's syndrome. Since I have it myself, I was pleased with how the show handled it, especially with the way the brain described it to George. I remember the day it premiered, me and my brother and parents all watched it together because this was an exciting time for us. First time we were excited about a new episode in a very long time, I might add. Another thing I noticed in this show was the common motif where Arthur or another one of his friends would worry the others to think he or she is a baby because of something. And as a kid, I've occasionally felt that way, so I could really relate. And they've had a lot of fun parodies of pop culture, including, of course, Bionic Bunny spoofing Superman, a Dark Bunny spoofing Batman, Mary Moo Cow as a parody of Barney the dinosaur, Harry Potter being spoofed as Henry Screever, and they parodied a lot of other literature, TV shows, and movies over the years, such as Goosebumps, The Power Rangers, James Bond, Scooby-Doo, The Teletubbies, The Adventures of Tintin, The Birds, Antiques Roadshow, Doctor Who, even Beavis and Butthead, and The Sopranos. Well, then again, I know Mark Brown was a fan of The Sopranos, so that helps. As if that weren't enough, there was also that bit in the contest that parodied South Park. They had plenty of stuff that could easily hook older viewers, which is why I continued watching the show as I got older, even if I started to only occasionally tune in after a while. They even referenced that in Season 4's That's a Baby Show, which of course I made a YouTube poop of as Arthur and the Teletubbies. And again, that's where my YouTube poops come in play. Among seeing it was a popular source material for poops until PBS Distribution began to crack down on them a few years ago, I couldn't resist. My first one I did way back in 2008 was of DW All Fired Up, and it was the second YouTube poop I've ever made. The one I've made so far at the most popular views would have to be DW Screams Too Much, despite being more of a compilation than a poop. And I made other such classics as... oh yeah, Arthur's Big Ass Birthday, Jenna Wears Diapers, Francine Frensky, Wizard of the Island of Korodai, Mary Moo Cow Gets Axed, Arthur's Critical Cut, Arthur Goes Violent, DW Swears the House Down, Arthur Makes an R-rated Movie, Arthur's Crappy Christmas, Arthur Gets Destructive, DW's Addicted to Surfing Bird, and various other poops in that particular episode, Arthur Watches the Day After, DW's Bratty Streak, Arthur's New Friend Lisa Simpson, The Age-Old Mask Device, The Tibble Twins Pawn DW, and Arthur's High Definition Treehouse of Horror. Whew, that's a lot. I also uploaded a few other sort of videos related to the story, such as library stock music the show would use occasionally, or my top 10 countdown of my favorite imagined spots and dream sequences, as the show has featured a lot of them, and many of them are so much fun. Some of the most hilarious moments in the series come from those dream and fantasy sequences. I also noticed that while Season 1 had 30 half-hour episodes, Season 2 had 20 episodes, and Season 3 had 15. No doubt to round it up to the standard 65 episodes required back then for syndicating an animated series. But each season, starting with the 4th, would be 10 half-hour episodes long, up until Season 20, when the episode count began to decrease due to PBS's funding starting to be cut. Seasons 20 and 21 only had 7 half-hour episodes each, along with an hour-long special to round each one out. Seasons 22 and 23 and 24 each only had 3 half-hour episodes and an hour-long special. And one episode in Season 4 was just a shot-for-shot remake of a Season 13 episode, The Great McGrady. Of course, the reason for that was because the original Season 13 version could not be aired anymore, due to a guest starring Lance Armstrong, whose reputation was tarnished after he was exposed to using steroids and such drugs. And because cancer is such an important topic, and the rest of the story was very good, they had no choice but to remake the episode, replacing Lance with an original character, the wrestling champion Uncle Slam, who had appeared a few episodes before, and the remake stated that he too was a cancer survivor. And so using a fictional celebrity that was able to beat cancer was a much safer bet. He'd even reused the same word from a kids segment as the season 13 original. But at least it turned out better than Disney remaking their animated classics in live action. And also, with it being such a long runner, it's inevitable some recasting would have to be done, since much of the kids are voiced by actual children from the art. They'd often have to be recast as they get older, especially the boys. Arthur, the Brain, the Tibble twins, and even DW have had to be recast every few seasons. Yes, you heard me right. For some reason, DW is always voiced by a young boy. I think it was so that she could sound like a slightly girlish Arthur. But it does make the teaser sequence to Arthur's big hit all the more funnier, with Binky disguising as DW and perfectly imitating her voice, done by a boy. I know a few girl characters like Francine and Muffy had their voice actresses remain on with the show, even after they got older, due to their voices not changing that much. But then you also have when some of the adult voice actors get much older. The Lakewood Elementary School principal, Mr. Hades' voice actor, Walter Massey, died in 2014 at age 85, and so he was written out of the show, despite occasionally making background appearances afterward. This is not unlike how The Simpsons had Marcia Wallace, the voice of Mrs. Krabappel, die in 2013. Or in 2019, when Rusty Taylor, the voice of Martin Prince, Sherry and Terry, died. Or when SpongeBob SquarePants' voices of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy died in 2012 and 2019, respectively. And Family Guy losing Adam West in 2017, who was the mayor of Quahog. What a shame. A real consequence of being on the air for such a long time. So at least Arthur is ready to pull the plug. Now, if only the other aforementioned long runners, like The Simpsons and Family Guy, could do the same before something bad happens, like one of the principal voice cast members dies. But enough death talk, because having grown up with the show since it began in 1996, I still remember what it was like when it was brand new, such as DW announcing the funding credits and voiceover.
Funding for Arthur is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and viewers like you.
Spiel at the end for Arthur video cassettes of a unique illustration of DW and Muffy, and how the episode title cards originally did not have a character read the title out loud. Back then, using those animated title card templates was reminiscent of The Busy World of Richard Scarry, another show Cookie Jar produced near the same time as Arthur. Beginning with the second season, a character would read the title out loud, and the reruns of the first season episodes would do so as well, even though once in a while a first season episode would be aired or released without the title voiceover, as you've seen in a few of my YouTube poops. An interesting thing I also noticed is how in The Rhythm and Roots of Arthur and An Arthur Thanksgiving, one of the storyboard artists is Glenn Kennedy. Yep, the Kennedy cartoons guy. Well, of course, in the finished project, you won't really see any of Kennedy's trademarks, like the general bounciness, the shuffling feet, the declarative fingers, or those kick-dancing moves. But even with that, I'm not surprised Glenn's storyboards look a lot more alive than the finished animation does. Well, I guess it's enough rambling for now. I wish Arthur Reed the best of luck in his retirement. And of course, keep watching my YouTube channel. Even if I don't make Arthur YouTube poops anymore, I can still get fun ideas for poops not of the show.